Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. I have my Jack Skellington Nightmare Before Christmas mug. We're channeling, I got my back cardigan, so we're channeling some just October vibes. Not mad about it, you know? I apologize for the lighting. Today's video is going to be my September reading wrap up. You know how this goes. We're just going to be talking about all of the books that I read in September and me giving you some thoughts on them. So the first book that I read in September was Beyond the Wand, Growing Up Wizard by Tom Felton. This was a little bit of a memoir from Tom Felton about him playing Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potter series. And I did talk about this in the Finally Fall book tag, I think it was. But I really enjoyed this book. I am not a memoir or biography type of a person, especially with celebrities. But I was intrigued about this book as soon as I heard about it. Just the idea that it was from Tom Felton's perspective and about Harry Potter. Like, I was curious, you know? And I thought I would really like it. And he narrates the audiobook, which was very delightful. And I did really enjoy it. So I was correct. I just loved getting his version of events and his life outside of Harry Potter. There was also a couple of times where he was able to put words to feelings and experiences that I have personally had that I haven't been able to fully articulate before, and he did it, and I felt like I could relate to it. I felt like he explained it really well. It was really interesting and really cool. And his talk of mental health was also very encouraging, and he had a quote in the book that I need to write down somewhere that I've just really latched onto, and I felt like makes so much sense. So I really appreciated that. He seems like a really down-to-earth and just good person, good guy, which is fun. I would love to have coffee with him and just like chat about mental health, about life, about anything. I think it would be a good time. So Tom Felton, if you ever see this, let's get coffee. I would love to just talk to you about random stuff. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I found it really enjoyable. It was funny. It talked about deep topics. It talked about addiction and mental health and filming the Harry Potter series and just so many different things. So I really, really liked this. I would definitely recommend this, and you should listen to it because he narrates it, which is just great. But really, really loved that, surprisingly. And the next one is Wisteria by Adeline Grace. This is book 3 in the Belladonna series. I believe there's going to be a novella, like a holiday novella potentially, but I think this is the end of the series in general. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I liked this book, but I didn't love the direction it went, and I did not care for the ending, even though the epilogue did help. I didn't love that. I didn't like the direction. I didn't like how it ended up, but it was okay. I did like getting more of Blythe and Fate in this book. That was enjoyable, which is the whole point of this book, so I really did like that. It was nice to see their characters more. I do feel like the book tried to do too much for how long the book was. I just felt like you got almost to the end and then this thing happened that becomes like the villain, or that becomes like the turning point of the story, but it's pretty far in, and then you're trying to resolve everything before the book ends, and I just felt like it was trying to do too much with A, how long the book was, but B, also where they put those plot points in the book. So thought it was trying to do too much, but I am glad I read it and we did get some answers, but it just didn't go down the way I hoped it would or the way I thought it would. And I didn't love how it all went down, but that's okay. I still enjoyed this series overall, and I'm glad to have finished it and checking that off my list, you know? These next two I'm just kind of gonna go through really quickly because technically I did read them, but one of them was just a devotional book. It was 50 morning and evening devotionals. It's by Lisa TerKeurst. You know that I'm like a fan of hers now. I'm like reading all of her works, and it's called You're Going to Make It. 50 morning and evening devotions to unrush your mind, uncomplicate your heart, and experience healing today. Pretty straightforward. It was tiny little devotions every morning and evening, and I finished that in September. I'm not gonna like review or rate that because that's just not the vibe for these. And on that same note, I finished reading Trust, A Study of Joseph for Persevering Through Life's Challenges by Jody Nisnik. This is a like weekly devotional that you kind of go through. It's a Bible study about Joseph's life. So I finished this. And you better believe if I read a book and finish it, I'm going to count it towards my reading goal and in my wrap-ups. The next one that I was able to read was Ghost Smith by Nikki Palpretto. This is book 2 in the House of the Dead duology. I gave this 3 stars. This book was fine, right? It was okay. It was good. but I didn't find myself as invested in this one as I did the first one. Still love the magic system. I think the magic system is really interesting, really great. It's kind of eerie and spooky and green and necromancy, and I really enjoy the magic. I really enjoy that aspect of it, and I do enjoy the characters of like the three main characters, which I would say are like the two guys and then Ren. I really like the iron magic system as well, though, and I feel like we didn't get as much more expounded upon for the iron magic. We got some, and it was interesting, but I didn't seem to care all that much about the plot and the resolution of the plot or the resolution of the story. I just felt like it was I was just kind of like okay, but I wasn't like super invested, really needed to know how it ended. There was a couple of things that seemed kind of convenient. But overall, I think it's a really good duology. I really liked the first book. This one, not so much, but it's a good story overall, and if you're interested in it, I would recommend you check it out. And then I kind of read this on a whim, which probably shouldn't have done, but I did. I also thought it was a new release. It's not a new release, but it's called New Dragon City by Mary Mancusi. And this was such a cute middle grade. It was really fun. I actually really enjoyed this. I haven't been giving you the synopsis for like any of these books. Goodness. But for this one, I guess a lot of them have been continuations. But for this one, it's about a apocalypse basically. So think zombie apocalypse, except no zombies, instead dragons. So the dragons are like eating the people are shooting the dragons. So they're kind of at war with each other. Humans will go underground in the summer and hibernate until winter, and then they're able to come back up because the dragons will hibernate for winter. Very interesting. So they'll like come up and scavenge, and it's in April and they're scavenging, but then the dragons come really early and they're trying to figure out why. The main boy character decides he's not going to go into hibernation because he's going to stay with his dad, who is trying to hunt the dragons, and he develops a bond with the dragon, and he kind of starts to question things on both sides. So the dragons think that the humans are monsters, and the humans think the dragons are monsters. And the baby dragon and the boy are kind of, because they accidentally bonded, they're kind of questioning the things that they've been taught. And it's really interesting. It's kind of political and it's interesting, and there's dragons involved. It's very fun. I really enjoyed this book. It was cute. Just a very cute, heartwarming read about humans and dragons. I was just curious about this, and it was short, so I decided to give it a shot. And I'm so glad I did. It was just a fun adventure. There were a little bit of scary elements, like just tense elements where you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? So I would recommend, if you're looking for a cute fantasy middle grade, possibly about dragons. It was really fast and easy and just really enjoyable and fun. And I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read that I was pumped when I was able to get this immediately on audiobook, and I also bought a hard copy because of course I did. It was pre-ordered. It was destined. And that is How to Piss Off Men. 109 Things to Say to Shatter the Male Ego by Kyle Prue. If you are on TikTok and you've seen the How to Piss Off Men series, it is so funny, hilarious. I laughed so hard. And this book was everything I was hoping for and more, to be honest. I really love Kyle's TikTok series on this, and the book was just also hilarious and wonderful. I could not listen to it in a public place because I would start laughing, and it was really awkward. I also really love that in the audiobook, he specifically took time to do commentary on why he wrote the book. And part of it was to show that when men get angry about some of these things that are said to them, they can then be introspective, see what's really going on there, see what is under the anger that is presenting itself, and heal from it, which I thought was really cool. It's a lot deeper than I thought he would ever go. I thought it was just going to be funny things, but he actually went pretty deeply about how, you know, with the male ego and stuff like that, when they're told they can't do something or they're weak or whatever, it like really damages them. And he was kind of saying, like, he had a couple experiences where he had commentary on things that were said to him, and he was like, this messed me up for like a month. And he had to like introspectively think about this because he was like, it doesn't make me less of a man if this happens. And he said a goal is to kind of like, as men, to become more introspective and realize what is really going on here, and to like evolve, become a better person, which I thought was really, really cool. And at the end, there's also an interview and advice section with him and his mom, which was precious. I really liked that. It was also kind of funny. I really enjoyed this. I would absolutely recommend it. It's absolutely hilarious, but I also think it has a good message behind it, which was surprising. 5 stars. Okay, and then I read some Hermione fanfiction, so just bear with me. I read Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic by What Murda fanfic. This was very intriguing. It was very easy for me to keep reading it. I really enjoyed reading it. It was kind of like eating candy in the way where you're just like, this is extremely toxic. This is not a good relationship, but I can't stop reading about it. That's where I was at. It was an interesting plot and it went a couple of different ways. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but essentially, to kind of bring peace in the wizarding world post-war, they take Draco Malfoy out of Azkaban, and he's kind of been on house arrest for a while, and now that he's off house arrest, they do a marriage pact with him and Hermione Granger. And so they get married, and she's working for the Ministry of Magic, and it's like this big taboo thing, but they're also doing it to kind of make peace. But they hate each other, so they're kind of like going at each other all the time, fighting in public, making, you know, front page news. And Draco is like deeply traumatized by his experience in the war and with his father and just everything that happened. And he like really wants her attention, even if it's bad attention, because he's traumatized. And she also has the scar on her arm that Bellatrix carved into it and is becoming infected. And they kind of realize that his blood will help the infection. And so they kind of have this like weird truce where he'll like give her some of his blood to help heal the scars. And they just start like actually becoming friends, actually start bonding. And the story kind of goes from there. Also a lot of like black market stuff, like assassination kind of stuff, secret Death Eaters, politics, just like a lot of stuff going on underneath of it. So it was actually really good, really fun, but twisted. So just, if you delve into it, take that with a grain of salt. And last, but certainly not least, I read Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan, and I really, really enjoyed this book. I wasn't quite sure about it at first, but it sounded like something I would enjoy, and I actually really ended up enjoying it a lot. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was just like barely not 5 stars, but there was just something about it where I was like, I don't feel the same way I feel about 5 stars, but I still loved it very much, very excited for the next book. So I actually really liked this book. I wasn't sure how the story would go or how it would start, but I really enjoyed it. Let me back up. So the premise of this book is that there is a woman who is terminally ill, and she ends up kind of getting an offer to live if she goes into her favorite fantasy book and does a mission. So she ends up being transported into her favorite fantasy book. It's a portal fantasy genre, this book is. So she ends up being transported into her fantasy realm, but she has to be aligned with the character that they think is most like her in real life, which is the Beauty Dressed in Blood. So it's a villainous character who is slated to die. And so she's kind of trying to use her knowledge of the plot of the book that she knows to twist the story so that she survives and can complete her mission and go back home. So like all of that is kind of interesting, but also with her playing with the plot and playing with the book and trying to change it, that also changes the story. And I really liked what the author did with this book. I loved that it's so interesting to be able to like know what's going to happen, but also not. And when you change things, other things happen, like the butterfly effect. I also really enjoyed that it poked a lot of fun at book tropes, and like in a good way. So it would be like, well, they have brown eyes, so they're definitely not a main character. This person has vivid green eyes, so they definitely are. Stuff like that, where it's just really enjoyable and funny, and we can all laugh at as book lovers. But I did really love that we're rooting for the villain. We're seeing her get her like henchmen. We're seeing this like the plots unfold. We're seeing them be vindictive and like just trying to survive and doing whatever it takes to survive. And it really played up being the villain while also having a plot to move it forward and for them to grow as characters. I guessed the twist, but it was still good. Still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the variety of characters we get as well. There's many. And I'm very much looking forward to the next book. Can't wait to have it. Very excited. Really love this. So if you've been kind of not sure about it, I would recommend picking it up and giving it a shot because it was really good. At least if you like that it's not taking itself necessarily too seriously while also having tense moments, things that move the plot forward, and you get really invested in the characters. Well, those are all of the books that I was able to read in September. It was actually a pretty decent month for me, not mad about it, and hoping that October is the same. Comment down below and let me know which of these books have you read or which one were you most curious about. But for now, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.